So, welcome everyone to the LIBERcast for a 11th episode, and I have the honor of having Scott Gordon once again having conversation about mind control, and we're gonna try to touch into healing too at the same time, giving solutions. So, please, Scott. You can introduce your information, and I just want to say that before we start, in 3 days, in November 50, I'm having Paul Rovelli on the LIBERcast. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be about Kabbalah and Selima. It's going to be an initiation. I talked with the gentleman. It's going to be awesome. So be there. It's going to be announced on Facebook and MeWe, and that's it. I don't have any more social networks. Too much work for that. Too much time to waste. So welcome, Scott, again, and let's start with what you wanted to bring to us, and then we can expand and converse a little bit about it.
Great. I appreciate you having me on, Neo. And we've promoted this show as being about mind control. I know quite a bit about it. I know I do a lot of inner work. I'm a counselor auditor, and I'm doing a lot of innovative work that derives from reverse engineering the matrix. In other words, we live under a matrix of mind control on so many levels, and we're only going to unravel it if we understand it, and then we reverse engineer it so we can actually heal from it. Some of mind control can be reverse engineered by understanding how it's done, how the abuse is done, and how you can work backwards from it. And there's many other techniques and methods that we can learn from. So I just wanted to start from the standpoint of, back up a little bit and get a broad view of what life is all about.
Yes.
And if anyone has studied natural law or the 7 laws, Hermetic laws, you know that this universe runs on vibration. And
Yes.
there are many, many levels of that vibration. It's a spectrum, kind of like a rainbow or like a piano going up and down. Some of the notes will repeat again and again and again, but on a lower scale. And so we have the universe is built that way, the human being is built that way, and the mind, oddly enough, is structured that way as well. So this principle of correspondence that we find in the Hermetic principles,
Yes.
we're going to be able to apply that to mind control and reversing the mind control for healing and inner work in order to become more effective and more powerful personally, so that we can get more done, reach more people, and reverse this matrix that we're trapped in.
Yes. And when you start, and it's interesting that you're bringing a natural law, because the first thing that you have to do is to align yourself with truth, and you have to discover it first. So it's not an easy path. It's not there's two kind of knowledge. I would say there's knowledge that you know by heart, and you have knowledge that you really understand. And when you're getting into natural laws and you're starting to picking up wisdom from every principles, because there is an infinite wisdom behind it, and it's this why what I am saying that's an infinite, because we have all our experience of now when with your experience in natural law, when you can observe it and then test it and then adapt to it and align to it. And it's Hermetism is really it's a self-healing for both individuals and the communal the aggregate of the people. So
Right.
we have the keys there, just there, but it's people are taking it like literally. So we have to like go. You have to like observe it, and you have to like take in your own understanding, because your life is not the same as the other. You don't have the same perceptions, and your experience is very different. So it's like any other like books with spiritual or religion like meaning that people will like understand it when it. But I'm talking like that. Just go, man. I'm cutting you. I'm talking.
No, that's completely valid. And the uh, the where natural law is understood best for most people is in the realm of the material sciences, because we can observe these natural laws like
Yes.
gravity and physics, and those are all applicable and part of the whole that we need to have an understanding of. But we also need to realize that there are natural laws that are invisible in the invisible realm of the mind and the spirit, which are also knowable. It takes maybe more observation and more experience to observe those. And I think as spiritual beings, we've been maybe doing that for lifetimes. If you see yourself as an eternal spiritual being, which I do. And so, anyway, that reminds me that a good introduction of one of the most fundamental natural laws that's been known on this planet comes from the ancient Chinese, the I Ching. And the very first action you see is the air on top of the earth, or the heaven and earth dichotomy. Okay, so that the heaven would represent the invisible realm that we come from as spiritual beings, thought, um, spirit, and the things that are not easily seen, and then the material universe, where we act on the material universe, we make changes in it, and where this heaven meets earth is the plane of causes and effects, where things happen, where we make actions, where things count, as it were. So we have this dream world up there where you can interact in dreams, but it has very little meaning to the what we would call the real world, the universe that we interact in and we have experiences in. And then we have the physical universe itself. And these things are separable conceptually. So it's a good thing to look at them differently at different levels. And that's what we're going to be doing and describing the different levels of mind control. But it's important to understand that just because it's not something you can touch and feel doesn't mean it's not real, because it actually, things come
Yes.
into being from an invisible realm. And everything starts with a thought. A piece of art or a building or a civilization is dreamed by dreamers and artists, and these things are invisible. You know, they come from the source of our being, and we can't. That's never been identified or photographed by science. So
Yes.
we know there's an invisible realm. Even the most material scientist knows that there are things that can't be explained and can't be traced. So we're looking here at methods of manipulation. I think something that Mark Passio put together
Yes.
as a list of different mind controls. And I'm going to go with my list that goes from the bottom to the top. And as you look at this list there, you're going to see some of that in kind of a mix. There's no real order to that list there that I can see. Maybe there is, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to start from the very bottom. Probably the most real and heavy form of mind control that we have is what I call prison architecture. And you can take that literally as how prisons are designed. They're designed with walls that contain you. You can't go beyond this wall. And of course, this concept goes into the mental realm and the spiritual realm, where we have beliefs that we limit ourselves with that are like walls. But really, we live in this matrix in which there are actual prisons, there are cities, there are walls, there are borders. And so we live in, some people think of this as a prison planet, and I tend to agree. And there's a lot of prison architecture. So probably the lowest level of mind control that's real, very real, is prison architecture. And a good example is a school. You go in and you have these walls. You're not allowed out of the room during class. You get to go outside for recess. So there's this dichotomy of freedom and imprisonment. And it's an institution that happens to share a lot of architecture with prisons. And so, it's unfortunate, and it's probably not the way education should be done, but it's what Western education has adopted, and they use it for mind control as well. That's not anything new to most people.
Well, there's a direct, you put prisons and how this works, and you put schools and how this works is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
You have this
there's so many similarities.
Yes. You have this cold metallic presentation, and then you have the strict agendas, like when you take your pause and you're going outside, when you're working, when you're it's when you're eating, what you can and cannot do, indoctrination, repetition.
Right.
Most of the things, why the system doesn't work is because it's regurgitation. It's like you have to push that in your brain and then regurgitate on a sheet of paper. That's it.
Right. And what we need to take away from this is that these physical barriers experienced long enough become adopted in the mind. The mind is kind of a reflection of the outside world. I mean, you can be artistic with it and construct your own mind like you do in your dream world or in your private thoughts, but you tend to absorb the physical universe environment that you're in. And so these walls become habits, these habits become mental, and that becomes a behavior modification. And believe me, these architects of prisons are experts on behavior modification. So let's move along and move up the scale. The next form of prison is the body itself, but I want to be very clear that I'm not denigrating the body as it's what we use to experience life in this world, in this place and time. And it can be a very positive thing, and it can be a very nice experience if you are very healthy and strong and all of the other things are in line. You can actually have a nice experience in a body. Some people will tell you, no, I can't. I've never had one. And I feel sad for them. But the body has its potentials, but it also is where things like physical illness, toxins, drugs, meat, bad food, and alcohol can all manifest and make the body sort of a prison or create barriers in the body, which then also affect the mind, because there's definitely a mind-body connection.
Sure. Yes, that's
So,
important.
yeah. And one of the most effective forms of mind control that we can never forget, I don't have the antidote to it is obvious, but it's sleep deprivation. And it's a common denominator of the most effective torture methods, sleep deprivation. And of course, the antidote is to get your sleep. And if you're
Yes.
going to do the inner work, you have to be well rested. So,
It's because there's
because,
two. I just want to add there that
yeah.
if you're taking heavy medication,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it does affect your sleep time, the quality of it.
It affects your sleep, exactly. And it affects
Yes.
your mind and it affects your ability. We're going to be talking about processing, and processing requires a very clean body. So that's why I start from the ground up, because the environment has to be relatively safe. Um, you're not going to be able to change your walls overnight unless you're into remodeling and you're able to do that where you live. But you can do some things to clean up your environment. You can straighten it out. You can organize it. You can make things a little less suppressive for you. But as we're moving up, we need a healthy body and well rested in order to get anything out of inner work. So it's the bottom of the, maybe later on we'll look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and the very bottom is security and physical, health and food and sleep. So moving on up from there, we start getting into, when we get outside of our body, the first thing we do, most of us on this planet, one of the strongest drives is to connect, to procreate, to have a family, to find a partner. That is a very strong need. Okay, and so the now we're starting to get closer into mind control, or the techniques that are used on this planet. Now we're looking at we can be controlled by our urges, and there's the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Thank you for finding that. So we have physiological needs. We've kind of gone over those. Safety and security. That's a pretty
Yes.
obvious one, and that's the environment.
Yes.
And now we're getting into love and belonging. Okay, our close relationships. Let's start with those. Family, and one of the ways that family is taken apart. People know this. People see this. Sexual perversion, advertising, oversexing the stimulation that we get, and that tends to pull us down into that plane or that vibration. It's slightly above the vibration of being worried about where your next meal is coming from, but it's still a lower vibration unless it's transmuted through the spiritual alchemy of a healthy relationship, and the give and take of a healthy relationship can be very therapeutic, and can be something that transforms one from a lonely non-player in the game, as it were, into somebody who is motivated to do good in life. So a
That's a good.
relationship can be very important for that.
That's a good thing that you brought up tantric energy, because I love how you phrase that you can transmute it. It's like a voice or exercise, and when you're talking about mind control and love and belonging, we're talking about emotional things. We're
Exactly.
talking about connection, compassion. So
Exactly. And
these are crucial.
exactly. And that's where they hit us. They hit us with put on the mask so that we don't visually connect. Antisocial distancing, which means basically that we don't get close and we don't get proximity. Unless you already had a family. I feel sorry for the people who really needed to reach out and connect with people who are single, alone. And
Oh my God, yes.
that those people were hit very hard. I was lucky enough to already be in a very healthy relationship, even though it was distance and it was hard because that made it extra hard. Those needs become very powerful. So I completely relate to those people who went through that and are still going through it in many cases, especially in certain countries that are not free at all.
Yeah.
So now we're getting into the mind. Okay, those are the lower components of the body and the body mind, and we're getting higher in vibration. And now we're getting less visible, less emotions that are felt through the body. Now we're getting into intuition, reason. Emotion does color it because emotion feeds intuition. So it's all on a spectrum, and there's not always very hard boundaries between each one, but we're going up in vibration. We're going to get to the mind, which is, for most of us, or all of us, a private thing that we have. You could compare it to a computer in some ways, that we use to model and reflect the universe and make calculations and predictions as to how am I going to get what I need? How am I going to get what I want? Who should I be in touch with? Who should I be in communication with? And we have certain areas of mind control that are targeted to this area, the mind. And one of them is right at that boundary where we're getting the things we need, the exchange, and that's money. They've thrown money there as a symbol of and representation of the work that we do to exchange for the things that we need. And that is subject to heavy mind control.
Oh my God, yes.
The image of money, the pressures of money, all those begin to shape a mental outlook towards exchange, making a living, supporting the people that you love, that depend on you. And so money is used as leverage. It's used as mind control. It's used as a control feature. You notice that one of the things that came out in the last couple of years is you notice that in some cases, the billionaires will throw away their billions if they know at the end of that road, they're going to have total control. So they'll shut down the economy. They'll shut down, the profits that they're making. They love money, but there's only one thing they love more than money, and that's total control. And that's what they're willing to sacrifice: short-term profits for that long-term control. And that's
can I
what
add
keeps
something?
this a prison matrix, and that's a key component of mind control. Go ahead.
I just want to bring people attention to the first principle of natural law. Okay, mentalism.
All is mind. All is mind, yes.
You have yes. So correspondence and mentalism are working hand in hand in this situation. This situation we have in now, it's not because of the oligarch, it's not because of the bankers, it's not because of it's because of the people who are doing nothing. These people don't have power.
Right.
We are giving them power.
Right. We're surrendering our power and they're taking
exactly. And that's why it's so insidious when we have this conversation with people. You want to make them understand the fallacy of it, and people struggle to even accept the idea of it because it scrambles their own world, their own beliefs, their own persona, their culture, and when you see through that, when you understand that this is about consent, whether you answer or not, it doesn't matter. You give them consent. I just wanted to say that and make this parallel because it's so important that people realize that if you want to know who's guilty of it, you know, it's not complicated. Go to a mirror and look yourself in the mirror. You know,
Yeah.
I think it's the, you want to, we are all, we are all pissed about this, you know, all they're taking our rights away. But
right.
I don't, people are like gathering together and doing things together, but pacifism doesn't bring people up, or it's just prove that people are just like, this is only supplication. You know, these people need to be tamed. You know, they need to be, you need to go to their face and then you tell them when they're hiding behind their screens and people are looking at them, you know, and they're you just go. If people think that government is, it's the people, then go and like do what we have to like do something about it, you know. And that's what I talked about in a more passionate way in one of my vlog I did, the one before that. You know, I take your responsibility, you know, as a human. If you have, I just want to say that I'm letting you go. I know you have a lot of things to say, and I want to say, if you have this knowledge now, I'm going to repeat it to people. If you have this knowledge, if you know, if you're aware, it's your responsibility. We are at a crossroad, and we're going into the wall. Nobody wants that, you know.
Exactly.
We're gonna have to tell the truth, even if it's we're getting like thrown potatoes and tomatoes and salad by the head. You know, you understand what I mean by that? You know, even if you lost your friend, if you lost your family, it doesn't matter anymore. It's about like real, like the freedom we have to, because freedom is not free. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, and we're looking at the desperation of the times here, because humanity is at a crossroads where we have very little time left to get this knowledge that we so desperately need available to everyone about who they are and what they can do about taking responsibility for their own condition and their own situations. Because if we have everybody doing the inner work and taking responsibility for the inner work and the outer work would be going out into the world and applying what you know and making those changes and helping others. And that alone could change the world. And then you have the other extreme. Well, we got to get rid of, you know, all the bad people, all the evil people. Well, if you did that, but you didn't do the inner work, then
absolutely,
you know, we're just going to see the same thing come back again. So we've got this middle path where we've got to do the inner work and the outer work.
Yes.
And we have to move fast. We have to really apply the knowledge that we have. So that's
the principle of correspondence.
Which
as above, so below. Yes.
As above, so below. And which brings us right into the heart of mind control. And this word literally means mind control. It's government, control of the mind. And government has been established by this idea of someone has the right to rule over other people. In the old times, that was the right to rule by royalty and kings. And unfortunately, humankind is under the illusion that has been changed in some way. The players have been changed. The methods are the same. The same families are running the world with their dark occult knowledge that we, up until recently, have never had access to. And they use government as mind control. And there's a level above government I'm going to get to next, which is intelligence and media. And that's really where you get the mind control. That's where but these two things, government the actual rights of and responsibilities that we take, there is no other human being who has a higher claim of authority over your life than you. So government is an illusion in the sense that, I mean, it's there for us right now, but it's an illusion in the sense that this is a truth, and it's a violation of this truth. There is no other human being who has a higher claim of authority over your life than you, and that's just the way it is.
Yep.
And people do all kinds of mental gymnastics to justify government being there, but the fact is it's not a voluntary organization. There is no opt-out.
No.
There are thousands and thousands of years of this, and laws and institutions and mind control from the media that keeps it all going, keeps the illusion going. That's why we call it a matrix, because although reality can said to be built, if you're into quantum physics or you're into Eastern metaphysics, reality is in many ways an illusion, but the illusion is in many ways real. So it's like there is a fundamental core reality. And I happen to believe that the natural universe is benevolent. And Mark Passio teaches the same thing. The natural law universe, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a neutral playing field at worst. At best, it's something that actually facilitates our freedom and expression and art and aesthetics.
Yes,
and
these are fundamental principles, maxims, things that are they're self-explanatory. You can see it everywhere.
Right. The creator of this universe did not intend for any harm to come to anyone, but gave every being free will. And that means infinite free will, which means you can go as far as you want into evil. And that's your thing, your business, and your consequences. So there are always consequences to that. And that's the way the universe has taken shape. And locally, these guys who have a long history of opposing good for whatever reason, and I think a lot of it traces to trauma. You can watch Mark Passio teach about the roots of the tree of evil.
Yes.
And a lot of it is traced to ego and ego going out of control. Ego is not necessarily a bad thing. It's something we use to individuate and be individuals, and we should be strong and powerful individuals. But if that's done at the expense of others and not following natural laws, you're going to wind up with what we know as evil. Evil is not natural to this universe. So evil, mind control is evil. We all would agree to that. And so government and intelligence strike at the very heart of mind. This is where hypnosis enters into play, advertising, the hidden subconscious tools that they use to control how we behave. Look at what rolled out the last couple of years. We're all in shock. All of us who are somewhat awake are in shock still at how our human beings could be led down a path so easily, but it is done using these dark occult, deep psychology understandings that have been come up the line in the dark occult, Freemasonry, other things that have been hidden from the people. That doesn't mean all of that knowledge is bad. Knowledge is not bad in itself, but that knowledge can be used for harmful purposes. And if they keep that knowledge from you, then they have that advantage. They can use it badly, and you feel there's nothing you can do about it because you don't understand what's being done to you. That's why knowing mind control is so important.
Yep. And this is just one, it's a small part of it. That's the thing there. We cover just a teeny tiny part of it, because there's a whole spectrum of I just want to say that because it's a beautiful truth, and nature is visible spirit, and spirit is invisible nature.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yes. And when you get into these things, and when you connect to nature, and because if you connect to nature, you connect to yourself. It's you can feel it when you're going into the woods and you're going for a walk. You can smell only the smell of it. It like gives you like good feelings, and you're getting calm. It's like, because you're going home. This is what I call home. Nature is like it's our home, our true home, and this is this kind of respect that we're getting when you understand this principle is about self-respect.
Exactly.
Because you can understand that there's no separation between us and them and nature.
Exactly. And notice that nature covers the bottom and the top. Nature gives us this inspiration, the beauty and aesthetics of nature, at the very top of the spiritual scale. And then at the very bottom, our personal needs are being met, the correct vibration for our bodies, healthy conditions, oxygen to breathe, and good natural foods to eat, and herbs that nature provides to heal and cleanse. So nature takes care of us all the way up, bottom to the top.
Yep.
The good part of it. There are aspects of nature that are not so pleasant, but my theory is that those aspects were artificially introduced, and that would be a whole nother show. So we won't get into that here. But in order to finish my scale going all the way to the top, we're now going above the mind when we're done with talking about government and intelligence. And by the way, before I leave that last line on your slide, and no group of human beings can legitimately abrogate your authority without your consent. That's exactly what government does. That's exactly what politics do. People are clamoring for political solutions right now. Make these guys wear masks and get this jab on one side, and on the other side, make these people go away. We're gonna, get revenge. And there's no political solution, because regardless of the size of the majority, it doesn't change natural law or the rights of an individual person not to be harmed.
Here in Canada, people were like, it's getting the temperature is rising now.
Oh, I can imagine.
Because of the children, now they want to inoculate the children of 5 to 11. And people are pissed, and this is what they want. This is actually what they want. They want to push us in the corner, and then we're gonna explode. And so there's so much division into this world, and just between cities and cultures, it's incredible. It's terrifying. This crisis there. This is the work. As I've read a lot of things, but this psyop here, this mass hysteria, is the worst things I've seen ever. It has switched the mind of people just like that, only by words.
It has
only with words, no proof, no pile of corpse. No pandemic, only words, only fear. And that's where and I know Mark Basso tells it so much better than me, but it's so like morality and freedom is like connected together, and it's so important to understand this,
Right. And this is what this takes us to the top of the scale. And believe me, these dark occultists work all the way up to the top of the vibration scale. They're working with the hidden invisible sources that make life go. And that gets into, for us personally, that gets into our will, our intention, our purpose, what makes what makes us get up in the morning and live. And these two subjects at the very top are, and there are different words for them, but what they are is they're substitutes for spirit. Okay. And that's religion and psychology. And
Yes.
psychology could also be seen as, in the negative sense, it could be seen as the sorcery that they're doing. They've tapped into our psychology, and they've shaped a matrix that is trapping us more and more. We already felt we were living in a matrix, and then they showed they could one up that matrix and
Yes.
tighten the screws and get your neighbor to do it to you. So this is the understanding of the source of people's and that hierarchy of needs shows how it's mapped out, but they know so much more than even that. And they're working, and to us, it looks like black magic or dark spells, and it is, in the sense that it's that intention, but it's actually a technology and a technique, a knowledge of how things work in the world that is eons old, thousands of years old on this planet. I suspect sometimes that it's been delivered from alien sources. That's why I say eons. But you don't, whether you believe in other planets, aliens or not, doesn't matter. It's been on this planet for thousands of years. It's on these tablets. It's in the old books. It's in these hidden teachings. And religion and psychology are the two finest vibration, highest forms of mind control, because religion pretends to interject you, intervene between you and your connection or communication with natural laws of the universe. So it's actually, they're interposing, they're saying, if you want God, come through us, the priests, to get to God. And people think, well, that's over and done with. Oh no, it's not. They've brilliantly substituted other religions based on the same pattern. You see a COVID religion now, and it has its own sacraments. It has its own behaviors, its own rituals. And they have used that knowledge of deep human psychology to craft a religion that people are participating whether they know it or not.
Yep. Yes. It's a powerful tool. Fear and masses. That's the
wonderful
thing there.
Slide here. If you can fall for a card trick, how well do you think you will do against psychological warfare? They have numerous tricks on numerous levels going all the time.
Yes. Scott, you know how insidious this is,
Yep.
Even us as people, we are still influenced by this,
Right.
We are the product of our culture.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
this
the
is
bad
the one
news.
part.
Yes. That's the bad news. The good news is that by reverse engineering all of these things, by becoming aware of them, study them, that's something almost anybody can do. But if you're really brave and you really want to get through this and come into a state of real responsibility and leadership and influence over others that can take them out of this matrix and out of the traps, then we have to reverse engineer these things. We have to understand them. We have to reverse engineer them. And we have to do the inner work that reverses the damage that these things have done. And most of the damage that we have control of reversing is the interrelationships that we have that have been harmed by wrong actions, by immorality, by failing to follow decent conduct, by violating do no harm, these natural laws that are there in the universe that come back and get you as negative karma. And we have to understand those things and be able to, because those things get in our way. We go out to teach others and we run into ourselves, and we run into things in those people that they can't get through, and we have to help them through it. So we have to understand these things.
Well, this is a great way to say it, and I just want to say that it's a great responsibility. It's the one work that there's only like the warriors who are going to get through it. You know,
Right.
we don't have the same baggage of knowledge. It's going to differ like arbitrarily from people to another, and we have our lives who are connected intimately with this system. It's still there, you know, and we want to change it, but we won't change, but people are not ready to do the single one thing that's gonna change their surrounding, their environment.
Right.
Man, when you're not ready to acknowledge basic fundamental truth, when this, well, and because you talk about engineering, we are actually witnessing an inversion of everything. Everything is upside down.
Yes.
The health, like community killing people, and then you have the justice who are like fucking treating us like endangered slaves. You know, if you don't have the money, if you don't have the influence, you're gonna. It's like you can see it's everywhere. Okay, when you know like Freemasonry and things like that, you can see everywhere. Okay, the church and then the court, it's the same thing. It's the same building, the same thing. It's cold and calculating, and if you don't know the law that they put on the books, they're gonna like make you look like a fool. But you know you're right. You know you did the right thing, but it's not. It's like a system already. It's ingrained into people. I had this experience with people. I had to conversation with them. I talked a lot about this to people, you know, and I get always the same response, the same answers. They cannot imagine something else.
Right.
So this state of mind there is the one of the children, one of kids. You know, it's really worrying. You know.
Yes, I understand. And really what you're looking at when you're looking at cognitive dissonance and challenging people's beliefs, you're looking at a clash of realities.
Yes.
And there are different approaches that you can do. First is to understand what reality you're dealing with and help them out of that reality. If it's someone you care about, someone you're close to, a family member, someone you have to live with, that's really what you have to do. But the thing that we also have a lot of cognitive dissonance in ourselves from trauma,
Yes.
from injustice, from pain, from failures. Okay.
Yes.
So one of the secrets, if we don't have a lot of time to cover everything,
No.
I'd like to, present, but one of the things I'd like to leave the viewer with is this knowledge. They build this matrix on foundations and in a chain. And they even do these chains of events like 1963, they assassinate a president. 1984, they come out and say that they have camps ready for people who are dissidents in the United States in the Iran-Contra hearings. 2001, the Twin Towers go down in their own footprint. We're looking at shock is done intentionally on society as their method of operation. And each time that happens, it triggers and brings in the old shock as an accumulation, and they begin to form a huge mass of cognitive dissonance, which paralyzes us as a society.
Yes.
So
Evolution stops.
Yes. So it stops all action. It stops people from acting. It stops people from thinking clearly. So the thing we have to do, whether we're dealing with a society or a group or yourself as doing the inner work, is to realize that these things always work in chains. And so when you're doing the inner work and you come up on today's problem, write down all the details you can about that problem. And you can apply this to other areas. You can apply this to groups, marriage, but basically for yourself, take up the problem that you're having, write about it, and get all the details. The time and the place are very important of what you see as the origin of this problem and where it's taking place. And ask yourself or go to an earlier similar problem. The similar part keeps it on the same chain. The earlier acknowledges that we want to go link by link. Okay? Write that one down. This is a great inner work for you to do for an hour every morning if you have the time, or whatever time you might be able to do. Write down, is there an earlier similar one? Now you stop when you get a good relief. You want to take the win. You want to take the release that you have and enjoy that, because that is what we call a cognition or an advance in your understanding, and it's a good indicator that maybe you didn't handle every aspect of that chain, but for now, leave it alone. Go to something else and take up now whatever's got the most attention on. But do this as much as necessary until you get down to the root of the chain for yourself. A lot of times you'll get to childhood incident, and it may not be, the same thing at all to the problems you're facing with your finances at your local bank this week. But the same emotions will be there, and some of the same thoughts that you had are still with you, affecting this week's crisis with the bills. And when you can do that, you start to empower yourself, because you start to know thyself, or get your self-knowledge going. Oh,
Yes.
I understand why I've been thinking this way. I have had a low concept of who I am, or I've had a low concept of how much money I should be making. And those things start to fall apart when you get to their roots. So always proceed as if things go in a chain, and you'll go down to the root of that chain and get some relief. And then you can work on another element. So that's a very good technique I wanted everyone
Yes.
to at least walk away from this show with, that is how good inner work is done. Step by step, going back on the chain until you get some relief or a release or a new awareness, and you can just safely end off there, take a walk, enjoy it, and get on your next project, because those are the things that stop you from creating. When you feel creative, go be creative, because that is how you're going to be even more effective in solving your problems.
Because that's awesome, the way you expressed it. And I just want to say to people that if you do that as a human, if you take time to do introspection, and transmutation, and your alchemy, like spiritual alchemy and all these things, and you're learning natural law, this is self-love.
Right.
And it's love for the people who are you with are you living with.
Right.
I just want, because there's you're talking about shadow work in your own words.
Yes.
Shadow work is it's not it. I just want to say, because there's a lot of things. There's people who are saying that shadow work is actually doing a complete contrary of what it's supposed to do. I don't know why but I'm gonna tell you by experience. Okay, I've been like doing it for years now, like introspection, and it's not easy. Okay, I'm keep repeating it. I don't want people to believe that it's easy. Okay, because you have to confront yourself a lot. You know, you're gonna have reactions, different reaction from from which you have before. You're gonna be triggered by image and smells and light, and you're gonna go in nature and talk to people, and you're gonna get like synchronicities, and you're gonna start to discover all this beautiful world we're living in. You're gonna see all the little details. You're gonna be able to sure, it's heavy, and sometimes you're gonna have to relive all these things that it's like it's like you're cleaning your temple, like your emotional temple. And I just want to say that when you're doing what I did first, without knowing it, it's that I changed my diet.
Right.
You start with what you're putting in your body, what you're doing to your body.
Good.
So I'm not perfect. Yes. Okay, I still do like not commendable things. Okay, I still deal with addictions. You know, I don't want to. I don't like. I'm pretty much like Bobby. I'm learning to not loving this word anymore. More of an habit that you have. You know, that is directly connected with your past and what you are as a person. You know, because when you're still struggling with that, you're still hurting your body. You know, and that's why I put my emphasis on emotional intelligence. This
great.
Is what my compass was. So
right.
I'm very an intuitive person, really. You know,
right.
And I can be stoic. You know, I can like switch off my emotions. That's one of the benefits you have from doing it. It's like you can choose whether or not you want to like share vibrations with people. You know, because it's all about vibrations.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
it's important to be comfortable in your body and starting to love yourself as a physical being too. You know.
Good points. And one of the things that you said when you started it's so important. Probably what you're doing if you're getting started with your inner work is you're going to run into you're beating yourself up.
Yes.
And so the word that you said, self-love, is so important. And
Yes.
when we say that, we mean grant yourself beingness, affinity. You are, no matter what you think of yourself and how ashamed you are of the things that you've done, you are at your core a valuable and important spiritual being. And you need to give yourself that while you're doing this inner work. It takes that extra push to say, look, I love myself, so I'm going to push myself to be a better person. And so I'm going to confront these things about myself that are ugly and that I don't want to look at. Get through that, because when you get through that, and I think the second part of what you were saying is basically there are rewards for doing this inner work.
Yes.
Your perception is going to open up. Your happiness is going to increase. It doesn't mean life's ever going to be totally perfect, because it's not, so long as we live in this matrix. But you are going to be empowered to as you pointed out, be able to choose those emotions, be able to choose when to turn them on and off for the occasion so that you can be more effective and we can
Exactly.
make it together as a team in this world to overcome this mind control on all these levels that we talked about and reverse engineer them so that when we get to the point where we all understand, all of us spiritual beings understand how this works, we can no longer be fooled by the tricks, the multitude of tricks that keep us trapped in this matrix.
One of the best things to counter mind control is to be about in the knowing about it. You know,
Exactly.
if you know your mind control, it doesn't work anymore.
Exactly. If you
This
know
is
how
the
the
power of
trick
the
is
mind.
done, the trick can't be done on you. That's exactly right. And you can help others to see the trick too. You can say, "Hey, look,
Yep.
they're running a false operate or false snooze right there. That's a trick." And that
Yep.
trick is how they do the trauma on societies and keep societies. All of this is follows the natural law of correspondence. These things reflect on each other. They more or less, they're not perfect correspondences, but they're close enough. If you understand how the trick is done to yourself, you can see them doing it on society.
Yes. And this is the one thing I want to bring back again, uh, in cycling up, and we're talking about correspondence. So this is we're about an hour, so I'm gonna like close on that, just on correspondence, because it's really important. So if you're doing the great work, if you're doing the introspection, if you're doing the shadow work, you call it however you want, it doesn't matter. You're not doing only for you. You're doing it for your neighbors and the people who are living in the cities. We don't have the as much time as others, things to sacrifice, because we have made choices in our life. But every bit of effort you put in it, every time you care about yourself, you care about the others. It's more obvious when you have a family.
Yes,
we
it
are
is because
learning
yeah,
we are
yeah,
learning from them a
right,
lot.
right,
So
right.
it's I want to bring that because I made mistakes in my life, and I made mistake in the great work, but I have the humility. I can use humility when I need to. I'm not perfect, and I change every day, and I'm not the same person. I'm not gonna be the same person tomorrow, because I learn thing every day.
Yeah,
So it's about growing spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, intellectually, and we have to let ourselves doing mistakes and being aware that we have flaws, and it's important to not put them aside. It's
yes,
when you're doing the shadow work, you are not eliminating what it makes you bad things that makes you sad and angry, and it's learning to live with it, because you
right,
cannot get rid of it.
right.
It's part of you. You are that. You are this experience.
Uh-huh.
So it's to you 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 put your finger on it, and then you're working on it, and then you're accepting, you're making peace with yourself. And this there is so important, so crucial for the betterment of humanity, because it's correspondence: as above so below, as below so above. What you are
Exactly.
inside is going to reflect outside.
Exactly. It's going to
So
radiate out onto our
yes.
dynamics, our families, our groups, our nation, our world. Exactly.
Yes. And I want to close that and thank you very much for being there, brother. I appreciate it. We have all we can like only do that like once from time to time, and I appreciate every bit of wisdom you bring here. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it.
You're welcome,
We're
and thank you for having me. And I appreciate the work you're doing.
So we're gonna probably do another part because we just like scratched the surface there. We didn't like get into much. It's about sharing, you know. It's about sharing experience, and people will experience it once in their life, because it's all about the great work.
Exactly. And for
Yes.
those who are in the freedom, truth, justice movement who are watching this and who know something of Mark Passio's teachings, we're just talking about one of the natural laws here, using the law of correspondence to reverse engineer the matrix,
Yes.
and
Yes.
to take our inner work and watch it begin to influence much greater than you can even imagine your world around you when you really do the inner work for real, for serious.
Yep. And I just want to bring this small image there.
There
So
we
this
go.
is one of Mr. Passio's slides there, because it's so beautiful and the words are perfect. So I'm leaving there to people to because it's so these principles there, they are basic for moral law. You know, this is really the foundation of like moral ethics in society. You know, if it
Right.
I consider as a blueprint, because there's so much to cover about that, but this is actually the blueprint, the fundamental maxims of morality. So that's awesome. I encourage people to look into natural laws, hermetic principles, natural laws. There's so many names, but the book, the Kybalion by the Three Initiates, written by a Freemason. Go take this stuff. This incredible book. It's short and it's sweet, and you have to read it again and again and again and again to like really get into the between the axioms there and the things that are very important. So thank you again for people to being there, witnessing this 11th podcast on the LIBERcast, and thank you for everyone who are supported, the co-hosts, that people, Scott and everybody there. So thank you everyone, and we're seeing in November 15th with Paul Rovelli. It's gonna be awesome. So be there everyone. Take care.